Okay, it's Thursday and we're back as a trio on the Celtic Way. The morning briefing, we're now a couple of days away from Celtic versus Rangers. I always like to kind of take stock of how we're all feeling in these derby weeks. You're both kind of smiling at me. Can we take it from that, Tony, that you're feeling generally confident?
I'm optimistic. I'm always optimistic. Glass is always half full, and I think I always say it's about what Celtic do. Green shoots of recovery the past couple of games. Now let's put it to the test and full metal, and put the pedal to the metal, as they say, and just have a right good go at Rangers on Saturday and see where it takes us.
I met a guy today who was a Celtic fan who was actually is flying back to Ireland on Saturday while the game is on, and he was delighted about it because he said he's a bag of nerves and he's kind of glad that he won't be able to follow or watch the game and will just get off the plane and find out the result. Ryan, how are you feeling about the game?
Um, Definitely a bit more optimistic than he is. I would be a bag of nerves all throughout that flight.
I know.
I'd need
I'm
to
I'm
find
bad
out
enough
again.
flying. See, without a game against Rangers, I hate flying. So
I'd need to be asking the pilot or something if he was privy to any information. I'd need to know the score. I'd be like, at Tony Bellew and I'm a Celebrity when he finds out the Everton result if Celtic were to win. But yeah, I'm as the closer we get to it, the more confident I get. Which I don't know I don't know why that's been placed in that way. I don't know if it was because I did the stats bomb report yesterday and it showed how utterly dominant Celtic were on a couple of days ago on Tuesday there. But I just feel like Celtic are beginning to be in a good place once again. They're the likes of Palmer is just he played out his skin on Tuesday. Maybe didn't have the assists to show for it, but that will be his first derby. This could be the big chance for him to announce himself on that derby stage. You've got Kyogo. I know he didn't score in the last game, but he scored in the game before, so he's now back familiar with scoring goals. And Matt O'Reilly's been doing the business all season. So yeah, Celtic have got they've got more than enough firepower to hurt Rangers on the day. We don't know how it's going to affect Rangers given the fact that they didn't play yesterday due to the postponement of that game. We'll see how that works out. But Celtic could catch them cold, and could really put some pressure. No two ways about it. Celtic will be the best side that Rangers will have faced so far under Philippe Clement. It's a step up, and we'll see if they can deal with it at Celtic Park.
yes, it's going to be very interesting. Someone pointing out there that the flight's only 40 minutes, Charlie. I can assure you it's a flight from Australia to Ireland, so you'll be missing, well, it'll probably be via the Middle East, but you'll be missing more than 40 minutes. Big shout out to MPH Group. They're flying at the moment, guys. See what I did there? Scotland's award-winning family run all trade specialist. They cover mainland Scotland and they have an enticing navy and boiler winter promotion just for you. As you know by now, with MPH Group, you're choosing top-tier efficiency. You get a free Navian internet controller. Navian are also big dogs. They're going for Product of the Year at the H&V News Awards. MPH offer flexible finance options as well so that you can gear up for the chill and be nice and warm and consider making a smart move. Thanks again to them for sponsoring. A few people chatting about it in the kind of live chat, and we've got it in our title as well, but bit of news in the Asian Cup front. It's just a couple of weeks away now, I think, the Asian Cup in Qatar. A couple of call-ups to add to Marco Tilio with Australia. South Korea, Jurgen Klinsmann's named his 26-man squad for the tournament. Yang is in, Oh is in, Kwon is not in, probably unsurprisingly, but Yang and Oh are in, Tony. So we know O's away. Fair chance, I think Kyogo and Maida are called up for Japan as well. So we're going to kind of be without any recognised strikers at Lennoxtown for that period. How does that make you feel?
I think we've known this for a long time, haven't we? And we've kind of surmised that all of those players are going to be called up. So makes signing a striker in January a bit of a priority now, does it not? I would have thought. There's no two ways about it. I think Celtic have to do business in the striking department in January to cover the loss of those players. As I say, it's something that we've known of. We were speaking about it last Christmas, and we were, projecting a year ahead and saying this is something that. So it's not as if it's come round the corner and smacked Celtic in the face. So you would like to think there's been some planning there Hamish and Ryan, and that Celtic did their due diligence and, catered for the fact that these guys are going to be away on Asian Cup duty with their respective countries. I'd like to think that's what's happening. I'd like to think they're getting their ducks in a row and doing something about it come the window opening in January.
Would they not have signed someone in the summer if that was the case? Or am I being very cynical there?
Could have did that too, yeah. Maybe should have. But listen, it's. I'd like to think that there's something in the pipeline. We wait with bated breath, don't we?
Yeah. Ryan, I mean, is it made up in your mind we need to sign a striker? Is there any way we can, and I'll go through the games that we're talking about in a wee minute, but is there any way we can hobble through with, I don't know, Liel Abada through the middle or something like that?
It wouldn't be ideal if that was the case. I'd want him to be playing on the right wing, even though I do see him more as a wide forward rather than a winger. I think his forward play is a lot better than his overall wing play in general. But I do think that Celtic need another striker anyway. Out with the whole Asia Cup debacle, I think they do need another striker, somebody that's maybe a bit more imposing. I've said on this podcast a couple of times that I think O's a hybrid between what Yakimakis brought to the team and what Kyogo brings to the team. I'd quite like a powerhouse striker. I know a lot of the problems that Celtic have up front is due to the fact that Celtic get no service to those strikers, but I would like somebody to force the issue. I'm going to be banging the Miovski drum until the cows come home, to be honest, because I just think he's a quality player, and if there is a deal to be done with both sides, 24 years old, North Macedonian striker, I just feel like if he wasn't playing for Aberdeen, people would be more excited about the player. Because, he's been banging goals in the Scottish Premiership. He's been banging them in the Conference League as well. He's shown that he can do it on the European stage and domestic game. So if there's a deal to be done, maybe, I don't know, you send a couple of players the other way as part of a swap deal plus some money, then I would be all for that, because, the lack of acclimatisation that Miovski would need to join this Celtic team would be such a bonus, especially given the Asia Cup. If you're looking for somebody that can go straight into the first team, then I would look at somebody like Miovski. Obviously, I would look at Shankland as well, but I think he'll be going the other way, to be honest with you. So, I think that's pie in the sky in that regard.
The other way?
Yeah, I think he'll be going to the other side of the city in January. I've just got
okay.
funny.
Okay. They certainly both know where the back of the net is. They both get really good records. Just so you all know, because you might just be kind of hearing this, or they're going to miss games. What are we talking about? So you've got the Asian Cup, which kicks off on the 12th of January. So like a fortnight, pretty much, just over a fortnight in Qatar. It's on until the 10th of February. Now, Japan and South Korea are two of the big dogs of that tournament. They'll probably both, certainly, I think Japan are probably the favourites for the tournament. South Korea probably second favourites. So they're the two big teams, really. And assuming they both make it through the groups, which I think it's fair to say they probably will, we're looking at a February return for our players at the earliest. So that would rule them certainly out of Bucky Thistle at home, which I would like to think we could get through without those players. Ross County at home, which again is a kind of forgiven fixture. But then at the start of February, Aberdeen away and Hibs away follow that. So, I mean, there could be a bit of Miovski chat in there anyway, with Aberdeen away being one of the game. I'd say there's a fair chance we'd be without the players for that too. There is a clause in the SPFL rules that allows us to ask for a postponement. I think, is it 4 or more players or something like that? Now, I don't know if that's a route Celtic would go down, Tony. Certainly under Postecoglou, the kind of noise from the club was, no, we want to continue. Do you think we should ask for that? Could we ask for that? What's your take on that?
I think they're perfectly within their right to ask for that, but I don't think it's in their nature, because they've not made any noises about doing something like that, have they? So I think they would probably like to play the games and carry on, as they say, and shoulder on. But getting back to what Ryan says about, I think Miovski and Shankland are persons of interest at this moment in time. You have to say that, don't you? And the chips fall on that where they may. But yeah, I mean, if it's something that's within your rights and you think that it would benefit you, then why not? ask for a postponement, that's fair enough. But I just think Celtic would prepare to play the games and try and get the points on the board rather than have any kind of build up of fixtures, at any time or any stage of the season. But it's not ideal, but it's a situation we've known for long enough. So as I say, I just hope that something is being done as we speak in regard to that, because I fully expect Kyogo and Maeda to go as well. So as you've rightfully said at the top of the programme, we do not have a recognised striker. There's lots of money in the bank, I believe. So you have the means and the wherewithal to go and purchase another striker. And I know they don't come cheap, but it's certainly a consideration. You have to say, if you can't do it now with all those supposed millions in the bank, then you're never going to do it, are you?
Yeah, I mean, the kind of the take I'm getting from the live comments is that we shouldn't ask for a postponement. No excuses, Mark saying so. And that's the kind of mindset I've got as well. But you are looking at tough away games there, Aberdeen away, Hibs away. But I think you're right, Tony. There's been no noise from the club, and I don't get the impression that is a route will go down, because you kind of have to play the games later in the season, and you'd maybe be playing a bit of catch up in that regard. So it may make sense just to go for it, and we should still be good enough. But you're talking, without Kyogo, probably without Maeda, certainly. Certainly without Yang and Hatate. Without him, Iwata won't be called up, I don't think. But it's it's a substantial amount of players. Telio as well is kind of going to be playing with Australia. So yeah, that's where we're at, Ryan. And we'll get through these matches first, and then have to worry about that.
Do you think they would be as cynical as to check to see who they would get in the transfer window before they ask for the postponement? If they put the feelers out and they can't get a striker in of note that'll come in, they'll be like, we'll just take that postponement. Maybe it's all part of the plan. Maybe that's why Tilio was signed in the first place, to get one of those Asia Cup spots. Because Yang and Tilio, they've sort of came out of nowhere, those Asia Cup call-ups. I wasn't really accounting for them, just due to the fact they've been in and out of the side. I know Tilio's only played 2 games for the club, 2 sub-appearances, but Yang's been in and out of the side as well. But it seems like Klinsmann really rates him. O was a certainty to get called up. He is either South Korea's first choice or second choice striker, sometimes third choice if Son Heung-min gets a game up front. I know he's the captain, but sometimes they play him up front. And former Celtic target Cho Gi-sung plays for Michelin now, he's scoring goals. It's between him and O that kind of fight it out for that spot. So it's good to see these players get called up for the country. I'm all for them playing these international games and raising their profile and raising their valuation as well. When down the line, it's good to see them get that recognition, especially in an international tournament. But if Celtic are without, potentially 4 or 5 players, you don't want that to hamstring them in the season. You'd much rather Celtic don't drop points at all, but you'd much rather it wasn't down to the fact that you'd be losing players in January and February and they weren't there, and you're like, what if those players didn't get called up? What if they were on the park to make a difference? I think it's something that if they're not going to call for a postponement, I don't think Abada can play up front. At this moment, it's too much pressure on a guy that's just coming back from injury. I'd much rather play him where he knows he can play, at right wing or left wing, and bring in a striker. Maybe even bring in a striker for 6 months. I don't know, but it's a risky situation to be in, because there's 60 million up for grabs with regard to the Champions League at the end of the season, and I don't want Celtic playing risks with that, to be perfectly honest with you. If they go and sign a striker for a good bit of money, then I'd be absolutely fine with that. But if they were to bring in a good player on loan for 6 months that would be a guaranteed goal scorer, that'd be good as well. The only problem is they're quite difficult to find, and they don't normally go out on loan in January. So
I think my own take is that I think we'll sign a striker pretty early on in the January window. Miovski is the obvious player at the moment. There's a guy, is it Kvistgarden? Is that the guy's name that's been mentioned? Brøndby, is it? So he's a potential option, or who knows, someone else to come out of the blue. Sean Haggerty, Tony, saying, how many signings do you think we need next month, considering we have a number of players away on international? So overall, squad wise, what have you got in your mind for January?
I was thinking at least 2 first-team ready players and maybe 2 loan signings. I have that in my head. I don't think they're going to go absolutely crazy in terms of January. I know he wants quality in, but I think it's more of a summer splurge, I would conjecture, rather than January. I think January's a difficult window, as the manager said. It's not impossible. So I would be looking at possibly a striker and a left back, and then maybe a midfielder on loan, certainly, because we need players, we need reinforcements. But what I want and what we get are probably 2 different things entirely. But you could be looking as many as 4, but with 2 of them possible, loan signings, I think, Hamish, because there is a lot of players and it's a big gap in the team, isn't it?
Yeah, I've made my thoughts clear on the prospect of loan signings. I'm not a fan, but it may just be unavoidable given the situation we're in.
I think it's a needs must, isn't it? And I think that's the situation we find ourselves in. And again, going back to it as well, you mentioned the summer window. I know they'll say they signed 9 players in the summer window, but they didn't sign 9 players that could walk into the team. Only one of them is performing consistently. So a lot of this is going to hark back to the summer window, isn't it? And Ryan's saying there, that's the biggest gamble you've taken with the poor recruitment in the summer window. So we are now in January, and you reap what you sow, people say, don't they? So we shall see what happens. But I think January is going to have to be busy. But I'm not a fan of loan signings either, Hamish. But I think in this situation, it really is a needs must.
Yeah. Last night, Rangers game called off. Is that an advantage for them not having a match this midweek, or does it really not matter, Ryan?
I think these teams are prepared regardless, aren't they? I was trying to think about that yesterday, if it was an advantage or a disadvantage. It means that regardless of the result on Saturday, Celtic will be top of the league going into the new year. So I guess that's one.
If we lose, it won't feel like that, I can promise you.
No, absolutely not. But just for the optics, I know it won't feel like that, but just for the optics as well. These teams are too fit to have any sort of disadvantage when it comes to that. I think both teams will be up for it on Saturday. It's going to be an interesting game for sure. Celtic Park, the atmosphere is going to be absolutely bouncing, and we'll see what happens between the two sides. But I don't think it's an advantage or a disadvantage. It's just the fact that they just need to move the preparation a couple of days. Maybe they'll have a bit of a harder training session tomorrow or the next day or whatever. But I don't think it's an advantage or a disadvantage. I think they'll just get on with it for Saturday.
I remember that Scottish Cup semi a couple of seasons ago now, Tony, when they played. It was the midst of their run to Seville, and they played, I think, on the Thursday night and then played us on the Sunday, and they went to extra time on the Thursday night. I think it was Braga they were playing, and everyone was kind of thinking, we're a shoe-in now, and they beat us on the Sunday and looked fitter than us on the Sunday. I sometimes wonder if playing a few days before can almost kind of keep you ticking over, and maybe the fact they haven't or won't have had a game for the best part of a week come Saturday is an advantage. Or does none of that really matter? Is it just who turns up on the day, etc.?
I think the latter statement that you just made there is about who turns up the day. Players like games, don't they? They prefer it to training, let's put it that way. But they're fit professional athletes. They'll be ticking over. They wouldn't have minded a game. But listen, it's all about Saturday now, isn't it? And as you say, whoever turns up, and I just think, that semi-final was one that really upped you, wasn't it? Because Celtic took the lead with Greg Taylor shot, and then Cameron Carter-Vickers hits a barrier inches away, and Celtic were poor that day. As you say, Rangers looked fitter and stronger at the end, didn't they? And I think what you'll see on Saturday is 2 fit and strong teams actually going for it. I think it'll be a highly combative and competitive football match, and I don't think any of the teams will be wanting in terms of fitness. So I don't think it makes any difference, any great difference or any odds that the fact that the Rangers game was cancelled. And, as you say, it doesn't matter. It's all about optics. If Celtic lose, even if they are top of the league, it won't feel like that. So, you know what's at stake. Just go out there and perform. And if they perform, I think Celtic have got a high chance of success.
Yeah, Michael pointing out that Celtic win against Dundee as an advantage, it helps the confidence. I think we'd much rather have had that game the other day and kind of built a bit of momentum. What did you make of that, Tony? You've obviously already been on the channel and spoken, but it has been much improved over the past few games, and we're suddenly, I don't know if we're in form going into the derby, but we're certainly in a better place than we were a couple of weeks ago.
But you said if we could beat Livingston and Dundee, we would feel better about ourselves going into the Rangers game. I think we feel better about ourselves going into Saturday. The second half performance in Dundee was pretty good, was decent. So now, in order to feel absolutely better about ourselves, if we can beat Rangers, then that'll slant the optics differently, won't it? So I think this is our big test as well. As much as it's Rangers' big test, this is our big test to see if you have turned that imaginary corner or you're getting things back on track. Because I fully expected Celtic to beat Livingston and Dundee, despite the fact that they had lost their two previous games. I just thought, listen, if you're losing to Livingston and Dundee, then you have got serious problems. There would have been a total malaise. So they've got it together, and now this is it. This is what players play for. This is why you play at a club like Celtic. There's no excuses. You're going in on Saturday, going toe-to-toe against a rival who fancy their chances. So meet that head on, and we will see how better we feel about ourselves come Saturday, won't we?
100% we will. It's the big test. I must admit that, and I said this to you off air the other day, Ryan, Rangers are winding me up a wee bit at the moment. They do it, let's face it, all of the time. But at the moment, their fans just seem a bit up. They obviously won that trophy a few weeks ago, and I would just love this weekend to be the one where we just silence them again. Just kind of put them back down. I think it was similar this time last year for the New Year derby at Ibrox when, again, like Beale had won about 4 games in a row and suddenly he was the best manager ever. And I know we didn't win that game at Ibrox, but it kind of dented him a little bit. And then later on in the season, we kind of really, popped the balloon. I'd love to see us do the same this Saturday, and I still make us favourites for the game. And I think it might suit us that they'll come out and play as well, Ryan. But yeah, they're just getting a wee bit too confident for my liking. So I'd love a wee victory just to dent that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are certainly getting confident once again, but I think more pressure is on them to get a result than Celtic. I know the way the results have been, that this is a big game. This could potentially turn the season in both ways, regardless of the way the game goes in terms of result. I think there's more pressure on Rangers coming to Celtic Park and getting that win to try and get closer to Celtic. I know Celtic have been imploding in their own right in some of their home games recently. You think of Motherwell, obviously Kilmarnock away, Hearts at home as well. This is a good chance for Celtic to just stand their ground and make a wee bit of a gap once again, because as much as the optics will look, they would look bad if Celtic were to get beaten the game. If they were to win, they go 8 points clear. I know Rangers would have 2 games in hand, but how refreshing would that be, given where Celtic were 2-3 games ago? In that run against Kilmarnock and Hearts, the gap was getting closed thanks to games in hand and the fact that Rangers were winning games. If they could get it back up to that 8-point gap, even momentarily, while Rangers do have those game in hand, then they've got to face some adversity at some point. Rangers, I know the games have been close and some of the games have been playing. The likes of Aberdeen in the final, that was an odd goal. They've been winning games by the odd goal in other areas, but they need to face some adversity, and I think they will face that at Celtic Park. It's up to Celtic to lay a glove on them, and let's see what happens when they're put under pressure by a potent attack force. Kyogo loves this fixture. How many goals has he scored in 2023 against Rangers? It's an incredible number. You want him to keep that going. You want Matt O'Reilly to produce again, because he produced in the first game of the season against Rangers. That assist to, not just the assist to Kyogo, but his overall game, I thought he was absolutely tremendous. You've got a guy like Palmer, who's a walking goal contribution, whether that's goals or assists. This is his first derby, as I said at the start of the video. He'll be desperate to make amends for his sort of in and out form. He'll be wanting to. These are the games that Palmer joined Celtic for, to showcase his talents. And you think if there's anybody that's going to cause Rangers' problems alongside Maeda and Kyogo and O'Reilly, then it'll be Lewis Palmer, because his numbers this season are quite staggering for a player in his first season in Scotland.
Yeah, it's the thought of Palmer lighting up the stage is exciting. Kyogo, he's been going through a wee bit of a dip, but I feel like he's kind of getting back. I know he missed a good chance, but like I feel like he's more involved in games, which is only going to bode well for the weekend. Welsh Paul pointing out, or saying, haven't been this nervous about a game in a long time. I think there'll be a lot of people feeling like that. We'll obviously revisit this game tomorrow. I just wanted to chat a wee bit about the Sky stuff last night. Try and get rid of that comment. There we go. The Edinburgh Derby, terrible game. Terrible. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it started well in terms of exciting, but the basic level of passing, etc., was deplorable. I just thought it was an awful game in terms of quality, and obviously the one thing it had going for it was a bit of late drama. Sky were trying out some kind of innovative stuff last night, Tony. We had various body cam during the warm-up, and we had cameras in the dressing rooms, and we had, I think, a Hearts player doing an interview walking off the pitch at the end of the first half. Sky wanted to go further as well. They wanted Nick Montgomery to be mic'd up. They wanted a body cam on one of the coaches. The SFA stepped in. They've blamed IFAB for that, but whatever happened, that part of it didn't happen. Did you see the game last night? What did you think of the coverage, and do you think stuff like that is a positive?
Do you know what? I think everybody was really looking forward to it, and then hours before the air was taken out the balloon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
By the fact that Nick Montgomery wasn't going to be, mic'd up. And after that, I think everything that followed with the body cams and all that, it just seemed like kind of, not blaming Sky, but it seemed a bit like amateur hour, didn't it? It seemed like kind of cobbled together. Well, if we can't do that, we'll do this. I mean, I think the interview for the player at half-time, did it last something like 19 seconds?
Yeah. What do you think of the game? Oh, we need to play better.
Wasn't it? Yeah. And I admire what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it entertaining, trying to make it a bit different. And that's all fine and well. But even the body cam for the warm-up, you just saw two guys
it was
passing the ball,
You just saw their feet, didn't you?
Yeah. And you're thinking, okay, the idea is sound, but they have to give Scottish football fans a wee bit more than that, don't they? They have to say to them, do a drill, or whatever what you normally do. You can't just have two guys pass the ball and watching their feet. You want to see a rondo or something, something, at a tempo that you would normally do every day in training. You're not giving away any secrets. I mean, lots of clubs do things like that. And, as I say, I think the idea was sound. The execution last night wasn't great, but maybe going forward, it's something we would all love to see it. I mean, the manager mic'd up. How good would that have been?
Yeah,
that would have been terrific to hear. And I
think it has to be both managers if you do that though. Like it just felt a little bit off what they were trying to do. And I think if you're doing it, you have to have both managers. But you already heard Stephen Naismith saying he wasn't a fan of it, so you're going to get people going against it. And I do get that, but I'd love things like I quite like the dressing room stuff. I like to see that. I like the idea of referees speaking after the game. I don't see why that's not a thing. Players have to come out and speak about things. I'd love it if referees could come out and explain decisions. Someone pointing out cameras in the VAR room. It's one of the few leagues around the world where they don't ever actually show what the VAR room looks like during a match, so it's kind of strange. I'd love to be able to hear the communication there. I just think we need to, Scottish football needs to kind of find a bit of a niche for itself and stuff like this. I think it should be applauded. You're going to get people not liking it, Ryan, but I think in general you should see it applauded, and I would love to see it for Celtic matches on Sky.
I was extremely excited to see that, and I got a bit of blowback from people that weren't excited about it. I quite like all the behind the scenes stuff. I'll watch the all or nothing videos in the dressing rooms with teams and players and managers. I'm interested in all the behind the scenes things and everything to do with the club, not just the football on the pitch, but everything that goes on off the pitch. I thought it was innovative. I remember, and I know that Nick Montgomery, he came from the A-League, or he made his name in the A-League in terms of a managerial position. That was the same place that I think it was Jared Gillett was mic'd up for the VAR. And I thought that was so innovative to hear what a referee was thinking, or to see what he was saying, and to understand what he was thinking during the game, his communications with the officials, because that was such a positive. Because this season there's been negatives with regard to the audio that came out with that mistake that happened in the Liverpool game. It seems to be negative after negative. It would have been good to have shone a positive light on the manager this time, because he would have been mic'd up. But I would like to see a referee mic'd up. Only problem with that is, choice language probably with the players. It's a very different world than your rugby players. I think there would need to be a bleeper alongside the referee. But I was disappointed. I think that the Scottish League needs to be more open to things like that, because that is a selling point. I think a lot more people would tune in if they knew that, a manager's going to be mic'd up. What are they going to say? If you're going to learn something from the coverage, because I thought the coverage was okay. Yeah, I did think the camera on Alex Cochrane looked a bit cheap. It looked as if he was wearing his new Christmas present out to training, and it didn't even look like it fit him, to be honest. But I thought the coverage was okay. I'm particularly enjoying Ian Crocker and Chris Sutton in the commentary. I think the two of them work quite well together, and they were trying different things. But yeah, I was quite disappointed with the fact that there wasn't any mic'd up footage or mic'd up audio. But maybe that could be something that's introduced in the future. I remember the sort of mixed reaction from other football fans when Andrew Postecoglou was mic'd up, but that's kind of went down in history. I'd like to see that happen in a game. I'd like to hear what a manager says and what he thinks, especially during a big game. I thought it was a missed opportunity for some innovation in a derby, because it would have certainly been more entertaining than what was happening for the majority of the match on the pitch.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get any of this at the weekend, Tony, so we can look forward to good old-fashioned broadcasting of Celtic thumping Rangers 5-0, and we're counting down the hours to it. We'll chat some more about this game tomorrow. Thanks again for your time, guys. Appreciate it. Go off and do whatever you're doing today. Writing about Celtic, I'm guessing that's on the agenda, and people can find out all of your stuff, and subscribe to the Celtic Way as well. It says it at the bottom there. £4 for 4 months, £18 for a year, and that's about as much as I can read before it goes off screen. Right, heading everyone, thanks very much.
/subscribe. That's
very nicely done. Professional, the real professional here. Right, I'm going to head off, guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in, commenting. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you wouldn't mind as well, and we'll chat to you this time tomorrow.